I was a wife, corporate attorney, loyal partner, and daughter caring for a dying mother, all while trying to start a family. What I didn't know was that my husband was having an affair with an intern. I exposed them and confronted them in front of the entire corporate team. Part 1. The silence in the executive boardroom felt suffocating, thick enough to slice through with a knife. 24 pairs of eyes turned toward me as I stood framed in the doorway, 2 sleek designer suitcases by my side like loyal guards. I didn't belong here, not in this place, not like this, but sometimes pain gives you purpose. And mine had brought me right to this very room. Before I share how it all started, the choices I made, the truths I uncovered, I want to know where you're watching from. Please, follow, and leave a comment with your city, your stories, your voices, they matter. And if you've also been betrayed by the one you love, maybe my story will feel familiar. At the far end of the glossy mahogany table sat Chloe Bennett, the 23-year-old intern with doe eyes and perfect posture. The same intern who had been secretly sleeping with my husband for the last 7 months. I hadn't intended to interrupt their precious quarterly budget meeting, but fate, like karma, has a twisted sense of timing. And today, she was on my side. Delivery for Chloe Bennett, I said, my voice steady though my chest was thundering like a war drum. I lifted the suitcases slightly and took a few steps inside. I believe these belong with you now. A visible chill ran through the room. I watched the blood drain from Chloe's face. Her perfect Instagram-filtered complexion turned a shade paler than the ivory walls. I remembered that same smile, how it greeted me so sweetly at the company Christmas party, just 2 tables over, while she was secretly texting my husband under the table. Her hands trembled slightly as they gripped the edge of the table. I recognized the nail polish, pale rose pink, French tips, the same manicure I unknowingly paid for using the joint credit card. Nathan wasn't even in the room, of course. Regional sales directors like him always had crucial client meetings on Thursday afternoons. Except his Thursday meetings had been happening 2 blocks away at the Marriott, room 1204, always booked under his corporate account. Whether he was that arrogant or just that reckless, I'll never know. A cough broke the silence. I'm sorry, who are you? The CEO finally asked. His silver Mont Blanc pen hovered in the air, forgotten. I smiled, but not the shattered, humiliated smile of a betrayed wife. No, this was the smile of a woman who had finally run out of tears, out of fear, out of patience. I'm Evelyn Carter, I replied, locking eyes with Chloe, Nathan's wife, or soon-to-be ex-wife, I should say. I rolled the suitcases further into the room. I just thought, since Chloe's been enjoying my husband for the better part of the year, she might as well enjoy his belongings too. Someone near the back stifled a gasp. Maybe it was the CFO. Maybe it was the intern next to her. I didn't care. My eyes stayed glued to Chloe. But it wasn't her shame that satisfied me most. It was the slow, dawning horror, the moment her little fairy tale unraveled in front of the entire executive leadership. Her future, the one she thought she could seduce her way into, was collapsing in real time. And I was the narrator of her undoing. 3 weeks ago, I couldn't have done this. That Evelyn, the woman who cried in the shower and blamed herself, died the night I found the messages. A cliché discovery, really. A ping on Nathan's iPad while he was in the shower. I glanced at the screen. Can't wait to taste you again tomorrow. 8 words. That was all it took to shatter 15 years. 15 years of memories. 5 years of marriage. 3 painful years of fertility treatments that I endured alone while he worked late. We had a waterfront condo, country club membership, plans to start a family next year once his promotion came through. We were the perfect picture. But the math of betrayal is always crystal clear in hindsight. Mrs. Carter, I think there's been some misunderstanding, the HR director began, standing halfway. I raised a hand, silencing her. No misunderstanding. I have everything. I tapped the side of my handbag, the one containing screenshots, hotel receipts, and the GPS history I pulled from his car. Truth, neatly filed away in alphabetical order. I just wanted to return what now belongs to Chloe. I unzipped the first suitcase. Right on top, folded with care, was Nathan's favorite gray cashmere sweater. The one I gave him last Christmas, wrapped in love and hope. I picked it up and tossed it across the table. Chloe caught it instinctively, her hands trembling. He likes it when you scratch his back while wearing that, I said. Soft touches. Not nails. He gets paranoid about scratch marks at the gym. A snort of laughter echoed from somewhere in the room. Maybe the CFO again. I kept going. From the suitcase, I pulled out his monogrammed shaving kit, the one with the fancy creams from Switzerland. He needs this every night or he gets fussy. Sensitive skin. I tossed it. It slid across the glossy table and landed in front of Chloe with a dull thud. Oh, and he's allergic to shellfish, I added. Breaks out in hives. I'm guessing you figured that out during all those intimate dinners, while I was at the hospital, sitting beside my dying mother. The room went ice cold. Chloe's throat convulsed. Her lips parted, but no words came. She looked around desperately, for help, for support. but found none. Evelyn, she finally whispered. Oh, we're on a first-name basis now? I tilted my head. How sweet. I took a step closer. You know what's funny? All those nights he said he was mentoring you. She's got so much potential, he'd say. I was proud of him. Proud that he supported young women in business. I let out a dry, bitter laugh. The sound barely resembled me. Turns out, he was mentoring your bedroom performance. I moved to the second suitcase. Inside were more of his things. His medications for high blood pressure, his cologne collection, his stupid vintage watch set. The Rolex I gave him for our third anniversary gleamed like betrayal in gold. He'll tell you he's healthy, but don't believe it. Stress gets to him during intense moments. Watch out for that. I placed the Rolex down gently, then stood tall, adjusting the blazer I wore, my power piece. The one I saved for partner meetings at my own firm. The one that held me together while my world burned. I've also sent everything to your compliance department, I continued. Every hotel charge, every dinner, every gift, paid for with the corporate card. That's against company policy, isn't it? Chloe's makeup had started to melt, black lines streaking down her cheeks, mascara mixing with guilt. Good. Let her drown in it. Let her feel even an ounce of what I had to swallow when I discovered that the man I had loved, sacrificed for, and trusted, was building another life just minutes from ours. You can't just. This is a place of business, she stammered, desperation clawing at her throat. And my marriage was supposed to be a partnership, I said coldly. But Nathan made his investment elsewhere. Now he can enjoy the dividends. I turned toward the door. The weight of everything I had done settled onto my shoulders like iron. For a split second, my knees faltered. But 15 years with Nathan had taught me one thing: never show weakness in public. So I straightened my spine, lifted my chin, and walked out. The glass door swung shut behind me with a soft but solid click. Chloe was left inside, alone, exposed, surrounded by the ashes of the fantasy she tried to build with someone else's husband. It wasn't until I reached the parking garage, keyless and breathless, that I let the cracks show. Inside my car, I broke. My forehead fell against the steering wheel. And then the sobs came. Violent, deep, endless. They surged through my body like waves in a storm, one after another, threatening to tear me apart. This wasn't the ending I imagined. This wasn't the chapter we were supposed to be in. But I wasn't the same woman anymore. Not broken, not bitter, just done. Part 2. I met Nathan Carter during my final year of law school. Back then, he was the guy who stayed late after lectures to help students prep for the bar exam. He had this rare ability to make the most complicated legal theories sound simple, like he was translating chaos into calm. Everyone adored him, but somehow, he made me feel like I was the only one who mattered. He proposed on the ferry to Evermist Island, right as the sun began to set behind the city skyline. He knelt down with the water sparkling behind him and said, "You're the only certainty in my life, Evelyn." Then he slid a ring onto my finger as the last golden light caught the diamond. It felt like something out of a movie, and I believed him. God, how I believed him. We built our life together slowly, like architects sketching the blueprints for a cathedral. Every decision was mutual: what firm offers to accept, which condo to buy, when to start trying for a family, or at least, I thought it was mutual. When the first IVF round failed, I was devastated. He held me as I cried and whispered, "It's okay, Evie, we have time." Then the second round failed, and the third. Every time, I blamed myself. I told myself it was my body betraying us, ruining what could have been. And each time, he told me it wasn't my fault, that we were in it together. But now I know, he was never really with me at all. As far as I've been able to piece together, the affair began shortly after Chloe joined Nathan's company. She was bright, ambitious, and 15 years younger than me. She came in as a marketing intern, with glossy hair, a dazzling smile, and a hunger for power that masked itself as innocence. I met her at the company picnic last summer. She seemed sweet, harmless. I even told Nathan to mentor her, just like others had mentored him. The irony of that nearly makes me laugh. Nearly. Instead, I cried in my car, gripping the steering wheel, making these strange, broken animal sounds I didn't recognize as my own. My tears weren't just from betrayal, they were from the unbearable realization that the signs had been there all along. The late nights, the sudden work emergencies on weekends, the newfound obsession with fitness that had him at the gym at 9 p.m., the new cologne I didn't buy for him, the way he clutched his phone like it contained nuclear codes. But I didn't want to see. I was too busy keeping everything else from falling apart: my growing caseload at the firm, the endless hormone injections, and caring for my mother during the last stages of her cancer. While I was injecting myself daily, bruising my stomach and dealing with insane mood swings, he was out building a secret life with a woman he had no business even texting. While I was holding my mother's hand as cancer slowly took her away from me, he was holding someone else's body in a hotel room downtown. While I was making sure we looked like the perfect couple in public, toxic. He was desecrating our marriage behind my back. What a fool I've been. 2 weeks ago, my mother passed, finally free of the pain that had taken so much from her. The house grew so still after the funeral. No more hospice nurses. No more gentle hum of machines. Just quiet, painful quiet. I needed comfort. I needed my husband. But that night, the night I needed him most, Nathan told me he had an emergency meeting with a client. He kissed my cheek and walked out the door, leaving me alone with my grief. Hours later, I found his iPad still open on the kitchen counter. And with it, the truth. Months of messages. Dozens of photos. Innumerable lies. Each message was a stab to the gut. Promises. Fantasies. Snide little complaints about me. He told Chloe that I was emotionally unavailable, that I was obsessed with having a baby, that our marriage had been dead for years. He said he had never felt more alive than he did with her. And she replied, "When can I have you all to myself?" His response? "Soon. I'm just waiting for the right time." The right time. As if there's ever a right time to drop a bomb on someone's life and walk away from the wreckage without flinching. He planned to leave me. He had made that decision while I was still breaking myself in the name of our shared future. I confronted him that very night. He came home late, reeking of that perfume she always wore, floral and sharp, and the faint scent of cheap hotel soap. I was sitting in the dark, his iPad glowing in my lap. I'll never forget his face. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't shock. It was annoyance. He looked at me like I had inconvenienced him by finding out. "It's not what you think," he said. The classic line of every unoriginal cheater on earth. "Really?" I asked, rising to my feet. "Because I think you've been screwing your intern while I was caring for my dying mother and injecting myself with hormones every night to give you a child. Please, Evelyn, don't twist this." He changed tactics instantly, like flipping a switch. "You haven't really been present in this marriage for years, Edie. What did you expect?" That's when I knew it was over. Not because he had slept with someone else, but because he was trying to make it my fault. My grief, my infertility, my career. As if any of those things forced him into her arms. I stared at the man I'd loved for 15 years and saw nothing familiar. Just a coward hiding behind blame. "Get out," I said, my voice like glass. "This is my house too," he said, standing taller. "The house my law degree paid for? The house in my name? Because your credit was shot when we bought it." He fell silent. He slept in the guest room that night. And the next. We moved through the house like ghosts, silent, cold, strangers navigating a once sacred space. 3 days later, over dry toast and cold coffee, he finally spoke. "We need to talk about this rationally," he said. "People make mistakes. Marriages survive affairs all the time." I looked at him across the kitchen island. The man who once held me during storms. The man who now tried to justify burning down our home. "You're right," I said, nodding calmly. His shoulders relaxed. For a moment, he thought I was forgiving him. That I would take him back like nothing ever happened. "We do need to talk rationally," I continued, "which is why I've contacted a divorce attorney. You'll be hearing from them soon." His eyes widened. "In the meantime, I need you out of the house by tomorrow." "You can't be serious." I shrugged. "I don't know, Nathan. Maybe Chloe has space in her little studio apartment. Or maybe one of the others can take you in." His mouth parted. His eyes told me I'd hit a nerve. There had been others. Of course there had. "Evelyn, come on. Be reasonable." "I am being reasonable," I said. "In fact, I'll help you pack." And I meant it. Because helping him leave was the first step in helping myself heal. Part 3. That night, after Nathan retreated to the guest room again like a shadow avoiding the light, I sat alone on the edge of our bed, the same bed where we once planned our future, and mapped out my plan. If there's one thing being a corporate attorney teaches you, it's how to think clearly when your world is crumbling. Strategy becomes survival. And that night, my mind was sharp as steel. No more crying, no more questioning, just execution. The first step? Protect myself. I logged into all our joint financial accounts. I didn't wipe them clean, just moved my fair share into a personal account he didn't know existed. I wasn't here to steal from him. I wasn't trying to hurt him financially. But I refused to be left vulnerable, scraping by while he wined and dined his intern on corporate cards and stolen time. I changed passwords, Netflix, utilities, Amazon Prime, everything we once shared. One by one, I removed his access to the world we had built together. Then I picked up the phone and called every credit card company we shared. "Remove him as an authorized user," I said each time, voice unwavering. And they did. Efficiently. Without question. Next came the evidence. I already had screenshots of the texts between Nathan and Chloe, but I needed more. Not for emotional closure, for leverage. So I called someone I knew through work, Janet Meyer, former detective, now a private investigator who specialized in infidelity cases. We met the next morning for coffee, just two women in professional blazers sipping cappuccinos like we were talking about weekend plans instead of gathering ammunition for a war. "I don't need proof that he's cheating," I told her quietly. "I need proof that he's using company resources to do it." Janet raised a single brow, then gave me a slow nod. "You're not just going for the heart, you're going for the jugular." I smiled, sipping my drink. "He made this professional when he chose a subordinate. I'm just following through on the consequences." Within 2 days, Janet returned with a thick folder, neatly tabbed, chronologically sorted. It was a masterpiece of exposure. Hotel stays billed to the corporate card. Fancy dinners labeled as client meetings, where no clients were ever present. GPS logs from the company car matching up with the times and locations of their little rendezvous. Even a Chicago business conference Nathan had attended last minute, Chloe was suddenly added to the attendee list just a day before. No documented reason for her to be there. No assigned role. Just her name, placed beside his. It was more than enough to violate the company's ethics code and the anti-fraternization policy that Nathan himself had helped revise last year as part of the executive committee. The hypocrisy was astounding, but I wasn't finished. While Nathan was at work, I went through his home office with surgical precision, drawer by drawer, paper by paper, every folder, every file, every loose receipt. And that's when I found it. A small velvet jewelry box, hidden at the back of his desk. Inside were diamond earrings. Not ones I owned, not ones I had seen before. Elegant, expensive. Underneath, the receipt, $3,800. Purchased just 2 weeks ago. My birthday wasn't for another 4 months. Our anniversary had come and gone without a card. These weren't for me. He had bought her diamond earrings while I was watching my mother fade away in a hospice bed. I stared at them, rage and heartbreak curling into a cold fire in my chest. Then I closed the box and placed it neatly in my own jewelry case. Chloe Bennett was not going to wear anything bought with the pieces of my grief. Then I found something even more damning, a flash drive tucked beneath a stack of documents. I plugged it into my laptop and found company files, confidential ones, financial projections, strategy documents, private personnel evaluations, information he had no right to possess outside of work, especially not stored unencrypted in our home. In an industry bound by tight compliance regulations, this was a serious breach. I copied everything, not to use, not yet, but just in case. By day 3, I had everything I needed. Enough evidence to destroy his career. Enough firepower to make Chloe wish she'd never looked twice at a married man. But I wasn't aiming to end him. Not yet. What I wanted first was simpler, more personal. I wanted them both to feel the weight of their choices, not behind closed doors, but in front of every colleague, every superior, every person who once admired them. That's when the idea struck. The suitcase delivery. I picked the perfect moment. Thursday's quarterly budget meeting. Everyone who mattered would be there. The executive team, the board liaisons, department heads. Everyone, except Nathan, who always skipped the meeting for his client call at the Marriott, with Chloe. But this time, Chloe had been summoned to the meeting. By me. The day before, I called the CEO's assistant pretending to be Nathan's assistant. I told her Chloe had some key marketing data Nathan wanted her to present at the meeting. "Oh, but Mr. Carter usually attends those meetings himself," she said, confused. "Unfortunately, he has a scheduling conflict," I replied, voice polished and warm. "He specifically requested Ms. Bennett to attend in his place." It worked like a charm. I could almost hear Nathan pacing in that hotel room the next day, checking his phone, growing irritated by Chloe's absence while she stood in the boardroom under fluorescent lights, unknowingly moments away from being publicly unmasked. The morning of the delivery, I woke up calm, eerily calm, as if my soul had exhaled after weeks of holding its breath. I took my time getting ready. My best suit, charcoal gray, custom tailored, hairstyled to precision, makeup flawless, a warrior's armor. I packed Nathan's suitcases meticulously, each item folded and arranged with care. His favorite custom suits, his precious watch collection, the signed baseball from his favorite pitcher, his rare single malt scotch. No chaos, no sloppiness, just clean, intentional closure. As I zipped the second suitcase, a strange peace settled over me. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't just reacting, I was taking control. I practiced my words in the mirror, not sobbing, not shouting. That's what they expect from the betrayed wife. I would be composed, measured, with a fury that didn't scream, it whispered, and made the room go silent. Driving to the office, I rehearsed scenarios. What if security stopped me? What if Chloe wasn't in the room? What if, by some twist of fate, Nathan decided to show up to the meeting? waiting, but deep down, I knew it would all go according to plan. People like Nathan and Chloe count on the silence of others, on society's fear of confrontation, on politeness to protect their secrets. But I was done being polite. At 2:45 p.m., I pulled into the visitor parking lot of the office building, right on time. The budget meeting would be in full swing. I checked my lipstick one last time in the rearview mirror. Crimson, bold, defiant. I stepped out, heels clicking against the pavement, and opened the trunk. The suitcases looked back at me like weapons ready for war. At the front desk, the security guard recognized me immediately. "Mrs. Carter, haven't seen you in a while. Is Mr. Carter expecting you?" I smiled. "It's a surprise. Just dropping off some things he'll need for his trip tomorrow." He waved me through without hesitation. Too easy. In the elevator, a young man offered to help with the luggage. I declined politely. "Thank you," I said, "but I need to do this myself." The weight of the suitcases was nothing compared to the burden I had been carrying. The executive floor was quiet, just the gentle hum of the HVAC and the low murmur of voices behind the glass walls of the boardroom. I rolled the suitcases behind me, their wheels whispering against the plush carpet. I paused. Through the glass, I saw them all. The CEO at the head, the vice presidents along the sides, and halfway down the right, Chloe Bennett, standing, smiling, pointing at a slide. Her moment to shine. I took a deep breath, straightened my shoulders, and pushed open the door. As I wheeled the suitcases into the room, the voices died. Those seconds stretched long and heavy, thick with tension. And then, silence. Part 4. By the time I reached my car, the adrenaline had begun to fade. My hands trembled slightly as I slid the key into the ignition. I sat there for a moment, motionless, the weight of everything I'd just done pressing down on me. And yet, for the first time in months, I didn't feel crushed. I felt clear, certain. I had faced them both, Nathan and Chloe. Not behind closed doors, not through hushed whispers or long-winded messages. I stood in that boardroom, carried in 2 suitcases full of truth, and laid it all bare. No tears, no apologies. I refused to be the silent, suffering wife. I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror and for a moment, I didn't recognize myself. Not because my face looked different, but because I was different. There was a lightness in my expression I hadn't seen in years. As if I had shed a skin I never realized I'd outgrown. My phone buzzed on the passenger seat. A text from an unknown number. "How could you humiliate me like that? You've ruined everything." I didn't even pause. I deleted it without responding. Chloe wasn't worth my time anymore. Neither of them were. Instead of driving home, I turned toward the waterfront part, our part, the one where Nathan had proposed all those years ago. I parked the car and walked to the same bench where I had once said yes, where I had once believed in a forever that turned out to be built on fault lines. I sat in silence, watching the ocean churn and rise. The waves crashed violently against the shore, then pulled back, only to rise again, stronger, endlessly, unapologetically. I stared at them and thought, that's me now. 1 year later, the morning light streamed into my new kitchen, casting golden beams through windows that now faced east instead of west. The whole house breathed differently, sun-kissed, warm, untouched by ghosts. A different view, a different life, better in every way I never dared imagine back then. That boardroom moment? It was the hinge on which everything turned. The aftermath was swift and clean, like tearing off a rotted bandage. Nathan was terminated the same day for violating the company's code of ethics. Chloe was quietly transferred to a different department, and then, during a convenient restructuring 3 months later, she was let go. The divorce? Finalized in record time. His lawyer must have seen the evidence I had compiled and advised him to accept every term I proposed. He didn't even contest the property division. He knew I had enough to bury him if he tried. I sold the waterfront condo. Too many memories, too many shadows clinging to the walls like cobwebs I couldn't scrub out. Instead, I bought a charming craftsman home in a neighborhood I'd always loved but that Nathan once dismissed as not upscale enough. I planted a garden, adopted a rescue dog with crooked ears and a lopsided smile. I reclaimed the spaces in my life that had once been sacrificed at the altar of Nathan's ego. And somewhere in the soil between my rose bushes and late-blooming dahlias, I found pieces of myself I hadn't realized I'd lost. My mother's absence still lingered like a half-healed scar. Her passing had left a hollow in my chest that no sunlight could fully reach. But I found myself talking to her more than ever, especially while gardening. "You were right about him," I whispered once while pruning the roses. "You saw what I couldn't." She had never openly criticized Nathan, but there were moments, brief telling moments, where she saw through his carefully polished charm. The tight smile when he glanced at his phone during dinners. The way her eyes followed him when he dismissed my opinions with a joke or a smirk. She had known. The way mothers do. Professionally I bloomed. What had once been a personal tragedy became my greatest testament. Word spread fast in the legal circles, how I had handled my own case, how I'd brought down an executive with truth and dignity. Soon companies began reaching out, not for defense, but for prevention. They wanted my help crafting ethics programs, harassment protocols, employee protection policies. The attorney who walks the walk, one client called me. I leaned into it. This new specialty, this calling, helping organizations become the kind of workplaces where people like Nathan Carter couldn't manipulate, seduce, or abuse without consequence. And as for children, I let go of the idea of becoming a mother through Nathan. That ship had sailed, and I was thankful for it. His version of fatherhood would have come with conditions, resentments, and disappointments. Instead, I began walking my own path. The adoption process was underway, slowly, cautiously, but for the first time, it felt like the beginning of something beautiful, not the result of someone else's timeline or validation. This child, whenever they came into my life, would know they were chosen, not compromised. That day, my phone chimed with a calendar reminder, lunch with Janet. Yes, Janet, the private investigator who once handed me the key to my revenge, had become something more. A friend, a kindred spirit. We met monthly now, swapping professional war stories over glasses of white wine and Thai food. Before leaving the house, I glanced at the entryway table. There sat a small, custom-framed quote. Sometimes the heaviest things we carry are the stories we never tell. I had carried that weight, quietly, proudly, for too long, but no more. I told my story, loudly, publicly, unapologetically, and in doing so, I laid down burdens I didn't even know I was hauling. The expectations of being the graceful betrayed wife, the pressure to grieve in private, quietly, so as not to inconvenience the man who did the damage, the rules that say women must absorb pain instead of exposing it. I broke them all. As I stepped out to my car, the air was brisk, clean, the kind of chill that reminded you were alive. My phone buzzed again, another text, this time from a number I didn't immediately recognize. Saw Nathan last night at Capitol Grill. He was with some girl, looked about 25. Some things never change. It was a former neighbor, someone who once attended our Christmas parties and brought over bottles of wine, someone who had witnessed the perfect couple illusion from the outside. For a fleeting second, I felt something. Not jealousy, not pain, pity. Pity for that girl who probably thought she'd found someone successful, stable, charismatic. She had no idea. I typed back, I hope she delivers his suitcase somewhere even more public than I did. Then I deleted the message, blocked the number, put the phone away. Nathan's story wasn't mine anymore. That book was closed. And I had opened a new one where I was both the author and the heroine. Over lunch, Janet raised her glass with that mischievous smile she always wore when something truly good was happening. To two women who refused to be footnotes in their own lives, she said. I clinked my glass to hers, smiling wide. To two suitcases delivered exactly where they belong. We laughed, full, rich laughter, the kind that came not from amusement, but from relief, from survival. In that moment, I felt everything finally align. The shame I once carried had been reborn into something else entirely. Freedom, not the loud, triumphant kind, but the quiet kind. The kind that came from speaking your truth out loud and letting the consequences fall where they may. That afternoon, I walked through my garden, fingertips grazing the soft petals of late-season dahlias. I thought back to that day in the boardroom, to how terrified I had been beneath the tailored suit and perfect lipstick, to how unsure I was of what would come next. If I could go back and whisper to that version of myself, the woman standing outside that glass-walled room, dragging two heavy suitcases and a broken heart, I would say, this is not the end. It's the beginning of something better, of someone stronger. And I was right. It absolutely was.